Hello, I'm Steelcase, the case that was stolen, the stolen case. And today we are reacting to Pokemon Johto Redraw, a reimagining of Pokemon Gold, Silver, and Crystal in the Johto region, where a bunch of pixel artists have gotten together to redraw the entire map without many of the restrictions of the original games.
My brand!
And naturally, we will be starting in New Barktown. The first thing we see is Atticus Finn. He made this amazing tile set for the ground, and I'm loving this little park bench area and this little tree with the spinner rack. It really adds a lot of personality to this area. I love how he interpreted the buildings. If you look at the original, they're mostly like brick. They don't really have that type of like old Japanese house aesthetic in a small town, but this one really does, and it really fits with the thematic and themes of Johto. I also really love this laboratory building that he added that has more of an industrial type look. And even though this is using the same amount of pixels or pixel density as the originals, you can really tell that there's a lot more detail going around here. One thing I really appreciate is that the floor, even though it's very dense, it's a very repeating pattern, I don't feel like it's too noisy for this area. It really works as a resting point so that you don't feel too distracted by all the noisy pixels. And what we're going to see a lot of here is a lot of really nice flourishes of Pokemon hidden in the woods, like this Ursaring, Pineco, Squirtle, Hoothoot, Sudowoodo. So that Pichu is freakishly huge. Bye, Mom. Continuing our journey, we'll be entering Route 29, made by Liam Cuthbert Art. Now, the first thing that strikes me is I really don't like the grass. Now, I don't think that it's the artist's fault. I think that they're using the tile palette of the original Gold, Silver, Crystal games, and as a result, I'm not loving the dark spots. I think that it doesn't read in the way that I think it should be read, at least at this zoom level. But if you zoom out, it reads a lot better at this level. Here, I can definitely see that this is grass. I get what they were going for. This gradient here, going from gravel to grass, works a lot better, at least in my eyes. The tutorial guy being attacked by a Rattata, he's not gonna last long. And before we go on over to Cherrygrove, let's head on over to Route 46. We see JD Zombie has filled in with a Cyndaquil, and Gold is walking up the path. And I love the way that the artists have mixed in the gravel path with the grass and created gradients here and there. It really blends in a really nice looking way. Oh, and I love this added train track. That's something that the original games weren't as good at doing, where the artists here seem to have taken into account where the train track actually runs throughout Johto from Kanto. That's an attention to detail and nice planning. Good job. And I really enjoy these rocks. You have these flat surfaces that don't really have too much going on, but then you have this pattern that really reminds me of those old hologram Pokemon cards where the shinies were holographic. That's a really nice stylistic choice. This is really really clever. I love that they made sparrows and made one of them shiny. Just reuse those art assets. Just give it a give it a different color. That's what shinies are anyway. Same with the Geodude. And I love the white outline. It really makes the Pokemon pop. I think that the artist discovered that the Pokemon were sort of just blending into the environment too much, because this is kind of like, it is kind of a noisy pixel art style with this grass and these things, but they solved it. This feels like a game where there's a distinct difference between the environment and the interactable elements, and that makes it really clear to the player what they're supposed to do. So good job there, actually. We know that we cannot go north on Route 46, so we have to go back. We have to head over to Cherrygrove on our adventure. And back to Liam Cuthbert, who has been adding some cherry trees to this route, which I think is really, really smart, because it is called Cherrygrove City, at least in English, and you would expect there to be cherry trees, but what do you know? No cherry trees. So we're here in Cherrygrove by Disco Cats, who has done an amazing job. I love this rendition of Cherrygrove. It really takes the original style imitations in a lot of senses, but it really amps up these buildings. I mean, look at those. They look really nice. It's a different type of pixel art style than the one over here in New Barktown, but I really like it. And one thing I can't help but notice is the roofs, they are pink, like cherry trees. So maybe Cherrygrove got its name from the house roofs and not from the trees that are here, which I think is kind of fun. Corsola, Krabby, Tentacool, Magikarp, and of course a Wooper. If you don't have a Wooper in your section, what are you even doing? This is the sea, as you can see. Real nice work, Disco Cats. Moving on to Route 30 with Animanel. Animanel. And this person must have coordinated with Liam to have some cherry trees outside of Cherrygrove City, but somebody didn't get the memo. Oh, but I really love this. The fact that Animanel made the shadow side here that much darker. It really reads as an angled surface, and this just feels so cozy with Gold and Cyndaquil sitting here looking out at the water, at the poly whirls. There's some really magnificent scenes in here, like just people going about their days in the Pokemon world, and it really emphasizes that feeling. Really nice work. And here we have the train tracks going through, and of course Joey. His Rattata was not in the top percentage of Rattatas. And here we have Professor Oak and Mr. Pokemon having a very friendly discussion about who has the right to be called Mr. Pokemon. Because you have to be quite a narcissist to call yourself Mr. Pokemon. And here again, we see a lot of very chaotic grass, and I'm not such a fan of this. It feels a lot better on this zoom level, but still, it still feels very noisy. I would go a lot simpler with grass, especially with this color palette. This is a lovely looking Apom. Thank you. And here we have the bug catcher trying to get a ladybug as we move further up through this lovely brick path. Here we go into another style. Here someone has decided that they want to, instead of using 16 by 16 tiles or 12 by 12 tiles, they are using 8 by 8 tiles to communicate. If you zoom out, you see that they've done a really good job of dithering these gradients from the rock to the grass path. So the further you zoom out, the cleaner the gradient looks. I really enjoy the look of Pokemon. All of them have very clean palettes. You see this Hoppip is just plain red and green with black outline. This Hoot Hoot is 2 colors with black outline and very stylized angles on it. But you can just instantly read that they are Pokemon. There's a lot of personality going into these. Like the Pokemon with the white outlines, these with the black outline really pop from this background, especially since they are so simple and the background is so noisy. So I think this is really good for a gameplay perspective, more so than maybe some of the earlier routes. A lot of these characters, it looks really aesthetically pleasing that they just blend in with the background. But they sort of blend in too much where they aren't really gameplay elements anymore. No, great Pokemon designs. Thank you. CKL Sal Pixels. That was a mouthful. Thank you for respecting the Dunsparce. Really important. Always respect the Dunsparce. Even though it doesn't evolve into Gligar. Straight on into Violet City. And Violet City was made by Huddaburger. Thank you, Huddaburger. These are some nice Pokemon. Oh, and I really appreciate how well you did these shadows and the light hitting Bellsprout Tower. I really love this huge negative space of shadow. It looks very painterly, very well thought out. Good job on the lighting. Bellsprout, Quagsire, that's a ladybug. And then we have Gold and Totodile and a Pidgeotto. Pidgeotto? That naming convention always confused me. And I love these kids just sitting here. But I am going to critique you. The tiling is really well done. It really distinguishes this place from other cities and other spaces in the Pokemon world. But it is way too high contrast. I'm getting a sense that my eyes need to drift towards the ground rather than looking at these wonderful buildings and these interesting spaces. And I would say that just toning down the contrast on the floor will help solve that, at least for my taste. But I mean, I couldn't make these buildings. I couldn't make a lot of this. This looks really great. It's a very nice Torii Gate. And that you just have a Hoot Hoot hanging out. I think that we are going to be heading straight down into the Ruins of Alph by Edelweiss Pokemon. And here we got something that looks a lot more like Chrono Trigger or maybe something like Earthbound. Not necessarily Pokemon, where the green is very different, the saturation is a lot lower, but it looks really good here. It works really well to make it so that you have some sort of negative space to rest your eyes. Even though it is noisy, it's not so high contrast and not so noisy that my eyes are bleeding. It really works, and especially in these areas where there's a lot going on with the rocks, there's a lot of noise, and you just need somewhere to rest your eyes, so you just dart back to the gravel again. Everything is fine. And also, it really works from a gameplay perspective because I will know walking through this area exactly where the floor is and where the walls are. I will not be confused between rock, floor and wall. And that's really important, especially when you're doing something that has a little less saturation than something like this here with the Pokemon trees. And of course, this is where you can catch Smeargle, who is imprinting his own artwork on these walls. Lovely Whoopers. Yeah, you did good, Edelweiss. You got Whoopers. I'm not sure if these are school children that are doing a book report or if they are actual journalists, but either way, it's cute. I like it. But it definitely feels like ruins, like touristy excavation site type of thing. It really sells that vibe. I love that you just plopped a bunch of Natu here, because this is like one of the only places that you can catch Natu, I think, in Gen 2. And this guy just ambushed a little Whooper party. I really enjoy the effort all the artists have put in to tell stories in their respective scenes. Because they know the subject matter so deeply, they've been able to express the aesthetic feeling of the world so well and bring lore into the design of each area. Links to the Johto Redraw project will be in the description down below. I'm a game developer making my own monster game where the monsters you recruit actually have feelings, motives, and goals. If you're into that sort of thing, feel free to subscribe. That's where I'm going to end this journey, but leave a comment if you'd like to see me continue this Johto React. But the nicest thing you could do for me is to share this video with someone you think would care about it.